Yeah, I want to double click on that example. Actually, the flock of I think you said starlings, right? This is the flock of birds that basically looks like it's one organism, right? They kind of
Yes.
move in this coordinated fashion when they fly. It's quite the visual spectacle if you've never seen it before. I have read. I'm not sure how they know where to gather and all of that, but once they start flying in that coordinated pattern, I've read that they're basically each bird is just following very simple rules. It's like
Mm,
if the bird on my right goes left, then I'll go left, and I always maintain 2 feet of distance from every other bird, something like that.
mm,
Where each bird's running this very simple rule set, but the emergent phenomenon is the the coordinated mass of starlings. And I wonder, there's this, I'm just trying to connect that then these very simple rules emerging into complex behavior in the collective. And as humans, a lot of the rules we're following tend to be related to economics, right? It's like private property rights, and the price signal in a marketplace is telling us what to do, telling us what consumers want. And we know that when we print money, we distort that price signal. So we're literally, I mean, typically if a price goes up, that tells you more people want more of something. But if a central bank is just printing money, then that price signal could just as easily say, oh, the central bank policy has changed, although nobody's wants have actually changed. So it's distorting these rules that guide us and coordinate us. It actually makes the prices more meaningless, right? The price contains less meaning. So I think it's
mm.
interesting that that might manifest as more meaninglessness in our lives. And I mean, you could look at this in the extreme case of a hyperinflation. I would say you could reliably induce a mass formation psychosis by just hyperinflating the currency. When you hyperinflate the
Mm.
currency, people literally go crazy. You can't, there's no mechanism of trust with strangers anymore. You're kind of reduced to just the family unit. And you mentioned all these historical examples: Salem witch trials, Nazism, Stalinism. I mean, at least those three I know had money printing in and around them, supporting them. So is it possible that there's some connection between, let's say, the inflation of currency, or perhaps more generally, just the violation of private property, which is like this socioeconomic rule set that's coordinating our movements? Is there some connection perhaps between these and the onset of mass formation psychosis?
Oh, there definitely is. But it just usually when in a fruitful, well-organized society, there is a so-called symbolic framework, a set of rules, a set of principles, a set of laws as well, which everyone or which are respected to a certain extent and which organize and structure society. And every large-scale mass formation leads to the transgression, the violation of these rules and the symbolic structure. That's very well known. For instance, if you read the book of Solzhenitsyn, the Gulag archipelago, where Solzhenitsyn describes his experiences in the Soviet Union. Look, it's there. Wonderful. Yes. Wonderful. So there you will see that one of the first chapters, I think the third or the fourth one, I'm not sure, is titled "There is no law." And that's so typical for mass formation and also for the totalitarian state systems, which are based on mass formation, that there are no stable principles and laws anymore. And that ultimately leads to the destruction of large segments of the population, also of society in general. So it's maybe to bring us too far, I think, to discuss this in detail. But totalitarian leaders typically rule on the basis of simple rules that can change every day. They abolish the law, and they just impose new sets of rules every day, which can change every day and which drive the population mad, except this part of the population which is really in the grip of the mass formation and which accepts the rules no matter how absurd they become. And that was something that happened in the corona crisis as well, of course. there were all these rules, all these measures, all these mandates, which were in many respects utterly absurd, which could change every day. And many people told me, like, now the society will wake up. The rules become too absurd. Now people will see it and they will wake up. And I warned them, they won't. They won't. This 20 or 30% of the population that is really in the grip of the mass hypnosis, which is really hypnotized, because mass formation is exactly the same psychological mechanism as hypnosis. So it's identical to hypnosis. Well, people who are really in the grip of this mass formation will never wake up, because the rules that are stipulated by the narrative they believe in become absurd. Not at all. It's even the opposite will happen. The more absurd the rules become, the more they will be applauded by the people who are really in the grip of mass formation, simply because all these rules, all these practical behaviors imposed by the mass narrative have the function of a ritual. And the ritualistic behavior is always behavior that has no pragmatic meaning, that has no pragmatic purpose, and that always demands a sacrifice of the individual, a sacrifice through which the individual shows that its own individual interests are less important than the collective interests. So that is a ritual. The ritual creates a certain bond. It creates a certain bond. And just through this specific characteristic, that it demands every individual to show that the collective is more important by sacrificing something that is important to itself. And that's exactly the reason. So that as you said, indeed, that's why mass formation always imposes absurd new measures and new behaviors which violate all normal laws and principles, because normal laws and principles are exactly made to protect the individual, and to make sure that the collective always has the function to guarantee that the individual will have a safe space in which it can lead his individual life. So that disappears in a mass. In a mass formation is and totalitarianism is a kind of extreme collectivism in which the collective destroys all the individuals in it. That's mass formation. It's extreme collectivism, and then totalitarianism is extreme collectivism. And a mass doesn't allow any individuality deviating from the group norm. That's what Canetti says, and that's exact. That's right. It's mass formation is extreme collectivism. Yeah.